Okay, it's time for our political discussion on the Improbability Engine, and Joe Darnell is here with me. And Joe, I think you're chomping at the bit this week.
You know, Will, I don't even know where to begin. Let's start on the James Comey hearing. James Comey was called to Capitol Hill to testify in front of the Permanent Standing Committee on the House to discuss a couple of things. First and foremost, to discuss the accusations that the Republican White House put out. There's no other way you can say that. I mean, it was done by that point. That said that President Obama had directed intelligence agencies, and depending on when you find this out, either American intelligence agencies or foreign intelligence agencies, to quote-unquote wiretap Donald Trump. And later that wiretap was meant to include all kinds of surveillance, including microwaves. And so the FBI, the leader of the FBI and the head of the NSA, both went up there, and both of them categorically denied that it ever happened. The White House then pushed back and said, well, maybe it was the British. The British categorically denied it didn't happen.
And they were very offended.
And they were very offended, and not just offended, but there are reports that the White House actually had to call and apologize. Well, they denied that, of course, but I believe they had to call and apologize to the British intelligence gathering services. You know, it's one of those where that accusation was asinine. Okay, it was a distraction. He was attempting to wag the dog. It was so egregious that he had seen it on Fox News, and one of their contributors, Judge Napolitano, had said it. He had sources that said that it had happened. It was so bad, Fox News issued a retraction, said it never happened. They couldn't figure out what Napolitano was saying. They have suspended Napolitano for... How bad does it have to be for Fox News to care about fact-checking it? That's how bad it was. Now, that one, okay, this was a distraction. Distraction's over. What really happened? The bombshell that came out of the hearings was that the head of the FBI came out and said that members of the Trump administration and Trump himself had been under investigation since July by the FBI for concerns of international nature, meaning that that they're trying to ascertain if members of the Trump administration or President Trump himself had broken any laws, and they've been under investigation since July. Now, I thought that it was pretty telling that the FBI was investigating Hillary Clinton. I did. I think that's important. I thought it was important then, and I think it's important now. But remember all the glee that Trump surrogates rolled out this concept of, well, if you're under investigation from the FBI, you have no business being president. That was an actual talking point.
They argued it should disqualify.
It should disqualify. And what we're finding out now is that, in fact, the Trump administration
at that time
was under investigation from the FBI. And there are mixed messages out there. Some people are saying, you know what, no, I don't think there's anything. And we're not talking about politically biased positions. You know, members of the Clinton and Obama intelligence services folks were saying, no, we don't think that there's anything there. But the FBI is still investigating, which means that there's something there. Whether it's a massive, major problem or not, I don't know. But I think it's pretty telling that Manafort, the former Trump campaign manager, has been indicted by the Ukrainian government for his role in bribery charges in the former Ukrainian, for the former Ukrainian president who was deposed. The Trump administration has been trying to downplay his role by saying he was a, quote, volunteer, even though he was clearly the campaign manager.
Right.
It's the same thing they've done with Flynn, with Michael Flynn, who come to find out was not only collecting checks that were funneled from the Russian government through a Russian-owned media group, Russian government-owned media group, to him, making him a foreign agent that he never declared, but he also was taking money from the Turkish government and was in violation of the federal foreign actors bill law that says that if you're going to lobby on behalf of other countries, you have to declare that. He didn't declare that, and in fact was named the national security advisor while still
On the payroll.
on the payroll for the Turkish government. That's a pretty egregious one. Well, the Trump administration has now since come out and said, well, he didn't really campaign much, even though he spoke at the Republican National Convention. He was on the stump multiple times for the president and really boosted his foreign policy chops. You know, that was the big talk.
On the other hand, there is little good news.
Okay. I need it. Hit me with it.
The new National Security Advisor,
Yeah.
I think his name is Mattis.
Yes. No. Well, he's the Secretary of Defense, Mad Dog Mattis. The other guy is, what is his name? Let me look it up.
Okay. I think
know who you're talking
Mattis
about.
is who I'm talking about.
Okay, so you're talking about
Secretary of Defense.
Secretary
I
of
suppose.
Defense. Yep.
Said in the last week that he thought that climate change was a major security threat to the United States.
And that's not a policy break. I mean, the DOD has said that for about 15 years now.
But it is in opposition to what the Trump administration
Absolutely.
said. And, kudos to General Mattis for being willing to go against what the president has said and what the administration has said about climate
Absolutely.
change.
Well, and for those who don't understand what that means, we're not talking about geopolitical influence of climate change. Okay, this is the DOD. They're a little more focused on what they do. One of the areas, and this is an anecdote, and I don't know how accurate it is today, but I have heard it from a military professional that one of the issues with climate change is seawater temperature keeps rising. And what that does is a lot of these nuclear-powered ships use seawater to cool their reactor. Now, it doesn't ever touch the nuclear material and it just gets discharged back out. But a 1 to 2 degree increase on average means that in places like the Mediterranean, the water actually goes up quite a bit more in temperature. And that causes major problems for these ships. They can't cool their reactor enough. They can't pump enough water through to cool it, and it affects their efficiency and their ability to run. If that's true for all nuclear-powered ships, that could be debilitating. That could be a devastating thing to see. I mean,
as long as we're
very
talking
expensive.
about the environment, let's talk just a little bit about the state of Kentucky. This is just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to cite 3 things here. Number 1, and the removal of federal regulations that prohibit the dumping of coal mine waste in streams in the state of Kentucky. Number 2, at the state level, changing the rules so that nuclear waste can be dumped in the state of Kentucky. And number 3, and this technically doesn't deal with the environment, but it's related to coal mines.
Mm-hmm.
Reducing the number of safety inspectors and the number of inspections and loosening the rules for coal mines, underground coal mines in the state of Kentucky. This is happening at the state level. People seem to have forgotten what it was like before these regulations were passed. A Facebook friend of mine who's a playwright, was up for the Pulitzer Prize. His name's Lee Pennington. He wrote a play called The Scotian Women. And the play is about a mine disaster that happened in the 70s, the Scotia mine in eastern Kentucky.
Yeah.
As I recall, and I haven't looked up the numbers, but as I recall, something like 200 men were killed.
Yeah.
The play is about their wives.
Yeah.
Back before the regulations, mine cave-ins, explosions,
Yep.
these were
Gas
things.
leaks.
Yes,
Yeah.
these were things that happened. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the thought that the people in Washington and the people in Frankfurt want to turn this state into a place where, once again, our streams are black with coal dust, they dump nuclear waste, and miners are exposed to the dangers they were exposed to 40, 50, 60 years ago and more. That's just mind-boggling to me. I can't believe that the people of Kentucky will put up with this.
Well, and what makes that even worse, if there is a worse, is the argument being made is that the only thing killing coal jobs is regulation. Well, all of these things have passed, and one of the largest coal users, a group in southern Ohio called Dayton Power and Light, said they would be shutting down two coal-fired power plants. Two of the largest power plants still on the East Coast that use coal for power. They're shutting them down. This is in light of the talk, all the talk by the Trump administration is we're going to bring these jobs back. We're going to bring these jobs back. The problem is they're not coming back.
No, they're not.
Because it's 50 years ago, coal was the cheapest energy source available. That is not the case anymore. And it's not regulations that are doing it. It's the fact that we're pumping so much natural gas that the price of natural gas is on the floor and has been for 15 years. Natural gas is cheap. The thing that is interesting about it is natural gas is cleaner than coal. Now, is it a lot cleaner? No. It's still dirty, but compared to the soft coal coming out of the state of Kentucky,
it's significantly cleaner.
Significantly cleaner. It's as clean as anthracite, I think, in Pennsylvania, and that stuff is, that was a fairly efficient carbon source. The thing that's hurting the coal industry is it's a 17th century, 18th century fuel. It's no longer useful in today's market. Even China is no longer using as much coal. They've cut back on their coal, and they've got more domestic coal than we do. If anybody would have a reason to push coal, it would be China, and they're cutting back on their use of it. It just goes without saying, we've had multiple generations of political sellouts to big mining in the state of Kentucky. And this is what was always going to happen. Eventually, big mining will leave Kentucky because that part goes away. Now, it's economics now. They're not going to leave a mine open. Why would they? They're not making any money. They're not going to keep doing it. No amount of regulation is going to do it. The only way if the government wanted to subsidize coal, which they've done in multiple ways by changing regulations to suit them, you could kind of keep those going a little bit longer. But it's a dying industry. It's a dying industry. It's like tobacco farming in western Kentucky. It's dying because the product that you're making hurts people and there isn't a market for it. There are still coal mines. There are still coal mines in Kentucky. There are going to be coal mines in Kentucky for probably the next 100 years, but they're not going to be the coal mines of 1950. There's still going to be tobacco farms, but they're not going to be the tobacco farms that were here in the 1960s. It just isn't going to happen. This whole golden age fallacy that these people have of everything was so much better back then, it doesn't hold up. It does not hold up to scrutiny. It doesn't hold up to logic. It doesn't hold up to anything. What happened was, and this is my supposition on this, the golden age of coal in Kentucky was the golden age of the UMWA.
Well,
And you get some of those union jobs. Those were union jobs in rural areas. Those are people who fought for each other and tried to protect each other and worked together and got paid a decent amount of money for putting their lives on the line.
And let's be clear, the UMWA fought for regulations.
They did.
To make it safe.
Absolutely.
And to stop the pollution of the streams.
Absolutely.
They fought for those regulations. Anyone who has a relative who's an underground coal miner, and my grandfather was.
As was mine.
They will tell you that you don't want that job.
No. I've read it be described as a version of hell. It's hot, it's humid, it's dark, you can't breathe, you can't see, you're hunched over all day, everything hurts, it burns your eyes, stings your nose and mouth, you get it all over you.
You breathe it in.
And the only good part about it was that you died at 40 of black lung. That was the only good part about it.
Anything else?
A lot of things going on. I ask that everybody who listens to this, I know it's not a lot of us who do this, but if you do listen to this, take an active stance. Be open and communicate with people. Let people know that there are people fighting against some of these rules and who think these things are bad. And that includes, call your state representative. It doesn't matter if you didn't vote for them. They still represent you. So be active. If you want to march. If you want to donate. If you want to make phone calls or send emails or write letters, then do that. But the only way this is gonna stop is if we stand up and actually be active and inform people who sat out. Because while we talk about the 10,000 in Michigan who voted for Trump and didn't vote for Clinton, and now we've got President Trump, or the so many thousand in Wisconsin.
You mean who voted for Obama?
Who didn't?
Right.
But the ones that swung the election. The biggest number of voters out there who decided the election were the number of people who just stayed home. So if we can get those people mobilized, and it doesn't really matter what Trump supporters really want. I mean, we'll have the numbers on our side even greater than what they were before. So be active, be polite, be all the things that you want to be in life. But by God, don't just take this lying down. So.
And that brings to a close this edition of the Improbability Engine.
The world's about to be destroyed. There's no point getting all annoyed. Lie back and let the planet dissolve. Despite those next to defeats, we